Well, someone looks too good to be married. That was the first thing I heard when her call came through. I was in the laundry room, folding her favorite pair of black yoga pants, the ones she never lets touch the dryer, when my phone buzzed against the washer. I answered without thinking. Hello. No reply. Just background noise. Jazz, clinking glasses, distant voices. Then laughter, her laughter, and that sentence again, louder this time. Seriously, Riley, what's your husband even like? Then her voice. Not cautious, not reserved, just relaxed. He's sweet, safe, predictable. Another laugh. Male. That sounds like a labradoodle. My stomach twisted. I didn't know whether to hang up or keep listening. Then I heard something scrape. Maybe a chair, maybe her hand brushing the table, and she sighed. You know that sound someone makes when they're on the edge of doing something they've been rehearsing in their head for weeks? It sounded like that. He still thinks I'm at a women's networking mixer. And you're here. With me. I needed a break from pretending. The man chuckled. Slow, smug. Then stopped pretending. And then silence. Not the kind that makes you feel peaceful. The kind that makes your hands go numb. The kind that swallows the air out of the room. I stood there for a full minute, just listening to nothing. I could hear myself breathing into the receiver, like some stalker spying on his own wife. And then, just before the call ended, just before I heard her say his name, I heard it. The clink of a glass. And a kiss. Not long. Not passionate. Just real. And it broke me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even move. I just stood there in that damn laundry room, holding her stupid yoga pants, while my ears burned and my chest filled with something sharp and hot and permanent. That call wasn't an accident. It was a warning, and I was too slow to understand what came next. I didn't say a word when she came home. I was still sitting on the couch, lights dimmed, pretending to scroll through some home renovation app like I wasn't dying inside. She walked in barefoot, heels in one hand, the hem of her navy dress wrinkled like she'd been sitting too close to someone. Too long. Too close. She smelled like champagne, and that perfume she only wears to things she doesn't want me attending. Hey babe, she said, her voice bright, practiced. Sorry it went late. Tara from marketing cornered me with some drama. You'd think a woman with 3 kids wouldn't have time for gossip. I smiled. I nodded. I asked if she wanted tea. She said no. She said she was exhausted. She went to the bathroom, then to the bedroom, then didn't come back out. No hug. No kiss goodnight. Just the sound of her phone buzzing quietly under her pillow. She had no idea I'd heard everything. I didn't sleep. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling fan turning slow, methodical circles, just like her lies. I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe some weird game. Maybe a misinterpreted joke. But it wasn't. The way she said, he still thinks I'm at a women's networking mixer. That wasn't a mistake. That was intent. The next morning, I did something I've never done in our entire marriage. I checked her phone. I'm not proud of it, but I had to know. And what I found didn't just confirm my fears, it threw gasoline on them. She'd saved him under the name Juliet. Not Julian. Not Jules. Juliet. Clever. If I ever glanced at her texts, I'd think she was talking to a friend. A harmless girlfriend. Someone she could laugh with, share harmless memes with. But I opened the thread, and it wasn't harmless. The last message read, last night was risky, but worth it. Before that, you're the only thing that feels real. And earlier that day, if I call you at 9:20, pretend I'm your assistant. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall. I wanted to storm into our bedroom, rip the blankets off her, and ask her who the hell she really was. But I didn't, because I'm not that guy. I'm the guy who folds laundry at midnight and organizes spice racks. I'm the guy she described as safe and predictable. I'm the labradoodle in the room. So instead, I put her phone back exactly where I found it. Face down. No apps left open. No messages marked as unread. And then I went to the garage, sat on the cold floor with a mug of stale coffee, and tried to figure out how the hell I ended up married to someone who needed a code name for her affair. Her boss. It had to be him. I remembered that voice from the speakerphone. Deep. Polished. The kind of voice that sounds like it owns the room, and probably does. I didn't know his name, but I was going to find out. Because now, this wasn't just about a marriage falling apart. It was about being made a fool. And that part? That's something I couldn't just let go. The next morning felt surreal, like I was acting in someone else's life. Riley kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work, her lips barely brushing my skin, like she was afraid of leaving a trace. I stood there in the kitchen holding my coffee. Watching her drive away in the car I helped her pick out last year, trying to understand how someone could lie so smoothly to your face after whispering to another man the night before. I didn't go to work that day. I told my boss I had food poisoning, which technically wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the food that made me sick. I spent the entire morning researching Riley's company, their team pages, press releases, photos from recent events. I even went as far as downloading an archived version of their holiday party video from YouTube and watched it frame by frame. And there he was, the voice. I recognized him before I even knew his name. Tall, older, salt and pepper hair, a suit that probably cost more than our rent. Derek Folsom, Chief Strategy Officer. Married, 3 kids. Lives in a gated community 30 minutes away from us. And based on what I heard over speakerphone, he apparently also moonlights as the guy sleeping with my wife. I tried to keep my breathing calm as I clicked through more articles about him. There were interviews, panels, keynote talks. He had that polished charisma, the kind that makes people clap for things they don't understand. That smug tone. The exact same tone I heard over the phone when he told her she looked too good to be married. I called her company's main line pretending to ask about a job opening. I said I had a few questions about Mr. Folsom's department and asked if I could speak to someone from his team. The receptionist transferred me to a woman named Paige in HR. I told her I'd seen Derek speak at an event and was just curious about what kind of leadership style he had. Casual small talk, nothing aggressive. Her voice dropped instantly, got stiff. "Oh, Derek doesn't really interact with most of the team anymore," she said. "He's been more private lately. But I can take your name and get back to you." "Private?" "Uh-huh." I thanked her and hung up. I didn't get much from the call, but I got enough. You know that weird moment where you realize the people around someone are also uncomfortable with them? That was it. Something about her tone told me she knew more than she could say. Or maybe it's happened before. I knew I needed proof. Hard proof. Something undeniable. So that night, while Riley was taking a long shower, the kind she takes when she's mentally somewhere else, I slipped into her home office and synced her work email to an old iPad we never use. She didn't log out. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she thought I'd never look. I didn't care. I hit download all on her inbox. The subject lines hit like bricks. "Your reservation is confirmed. Looking forward to seeing you again." That cabin was everything. Same time next quarter? I felt like I was watching someone dig my heart out with a spoon, one email at a time. They'd rented a cabin. In the mountains. Last quarter. While she told me she was on a team retreat about corporate vision alignment. I remember the weekend clearly. I stayed home and built that dumb IKEA bookshelf she ordered from Instagram. Now I can't even look at it without wanting to punch through the drywall. She came out of the shower an hour later, towel wrapped around her, humming something under her breath. And for the first time in our marriage, I couldn't look her in the eye. I didn't say a word, because it wasn't time yet. I didn't sleep that night either. I lay next to her, stiff as a corpse, eyes open in the dark while she breathed softly beside me. Peaceful, warm, like nothing in her world was broken. Her hand even brushed mine under the blanket at one point, and I flinched like she'd touched a nerve ending. I used to love the way she tucked her legs against me. Now it felt like I was sleeping next to a loaded weapon. I kept thinking about that cabin, about what happened there, about the towels, the fireplace, the wine glasses, all the stupid, intimate details I imagined they shared while I sat at home eating microwave lasagna and watching a 5-hour documentary about the collapse of a train system I didn't care about. She probably wore that burgundy sweater I loved, the one I told her made her look like something out of a bookstore romance novel. Now I couldn't even look at it without picturing her pulling it off for someone else. The next day, I started planning. Not revenge. Not yet. Just clarity. I knew if I confronted her now, she'd lie. She's good at it. Too good. She'd cry, spin something emotional, maybe blame burnout, or me, or drifting apart. I'd heard enough Reddit posts to know how the script goes. And I didn't want a script. I wanted the truth. Raw. Undeniable. Unfiltered. So I played it calm. I made her breakfast. Actual pancakes, which I hadn't done in over a year. She looked at me weird at first, like she wasn't sure if it was a trap. But she smiled. Told me I was sweet. I wanted to laugh in her face. Sweet? No. I was building the stage for her to hang herself. I installed a motion-triggered recording app on the old iPad. slipped it into her home office bookshelf behind the stack of unused planners she buys every January. I told her I was doing a spring cleaning of the tech drawer, setting up backups and recycling old devices. She barely listened. She was texting during breakfast, her phone screen tilted away, fingers moving quickly. Probably Juliet again. By the end of the week, I had 3 recordings. Nothing explosive yet, but enough to learn how often he called her from his private line. She saved his number as consulting lead. They spoke in code, but it was obvious. She used words like deck and budget proposals and executive alignment, except it was all said in tones no normal coworkers use. Her voice got lower, slower, more playful. On Friday afternoon, I got my first real break. She took a call in her office with the door cracked open. I was in the hallway, pretending to water her plants. She didn't notice. "Not this weekend," she said, voice hushed. "He's been weird. He made pancakes and asked what perfume I was wearing. I think he's suspicious." My fingers clenched the watering can. Then she added, "But don't worry, I'll handle it. I've done this before." That last line, that one sent something through me I can't even describe. I've done this before. It didn't mean what I hoped it meant. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about our marriage. It was about other people she's betrayed. Maybe Derek wasn't her first. Maybe I wasn't her first fool. I went back to the guest room, locked the door, and finally allowed myself to feel it all. The disgust, the shame, the pathetic wave of self-hatred that comes from realizing you were never the main character in your own life, just a placeholder. A comfortable background character in someone else's storyline. But I wasn't going to stay that way. That night, while she went to sleep early with a migraine, I listened to every recording again. I took notes. I saved clips. I started making a timeline. Because the truth was unraveling, and the more I pulled, the uglier it got. And I knew exactly how I was going to use it. By Monday, something in her had shifted. She was quieter at breakfast. Not absent, not exactly cold, just slightly offbeat, like a jazz player missing the timing by half a second. I watched her out of the corner of my eye as she buttered her toast in slow, even strokes, using the same rhythm she did when she was thinking about something she didn't want me to know. Her phone was face down again. She never used to do that. Back when things were good, she used to leave it unlocked on the counter while she brushed her teeth. Now it was always either in her pocket or screen down, like it needed to be hidden from light. She asked me that morning, "You doing okay? You've seemed a little distant." That word, distant. I almost choked on my coffee. I smiled and said work had been intense, which was true in a way. I'd barely worked all week. I'd been turning our guest room into a war room, printing emails, time-stamping audio recordings, even sketching a twisted little flowchart to track the pattern of their meetings, calls, hotel confirmations. It was like planning a heist, except instead of robbing a bank, I was robbing my own illusions of a marriage. But it was what happened Tuesday night that broke the pattern. She came home earlier than usual, cheeks flushed, hair slightly out of place, and went straight into the bathroom without saying hi. I heard the shower turn on. I checked her phone while she was under the water, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Something was off. I could feel it. The lock screen had a new message preview. Not from Juliet this time. "Derek, private line, you left your bracelet. Should I keep it till next time?" My ears burned. She hadn't even been home for 5 minutes. She was texting him from our driveway. She was in our bathroom, probably rinsing him off her skin, while I stood in our living room reading the evidence like a second-rate detective in my own house. I didn't say anything. I put the phone down. I walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge just to have something to do with my hands. She walked in 10 minutes later in her robe, smelling like that citrusy shampoo she only uses after sex, even though she tells me it's for special occasions. She kissed my cheek and asked if I wanted takeout. I told her I wasn't hungry. I lied. I was starving. But not for food. I was starving for answers. For something to snap. For a signal that it was time. And as if the universe was listening, I got it the next morning. An envelope. Hand-delivered. No return address. No stamps. Just my name, written in handwriting I didn't recognize. I thought it was some neighbor's weird invite at first. But when I opened it, the message was typed, cold, calculated, and terrifyingly simple. "You don't deserve this. Check the parking garage camera, level C, row 5, October 14th, 6:42 p.m. Ask her what really happened at the strategy meeting." No signature. No explanation. Just that. And in that moment, something inside me crystallized. There was someone else who knew. Someone on the inside. And they were telling me, not just that I was right, but that this went deeper than a fling. This was something coordinated. This was politics. This was reputation. And now, it wasn't just about cheating. It was about exposure. So I drove to her building. And I watched the footage. And I swear to God, what I saw changed everything I thought I understood about the kind of person my wife had become. There's a kind of adrenaline that doesn't hit your chest or your legs, it hits your brain. A quiet sort of madness. That's what I felt standing in front of the building's private security office, clutching a flimsy visitor badge like it meant something. I didn't even have a real excuse for being there. I just told the guy at the front desk I left something in my wife's car and that I thought I saw someone suspicious hanging around the garage last week. A half-lie. Enough to make them nervous. Enough to get me what I needed. The guy behind the desk, some underpaid kid named Joel with AirPods in and a monsterkin sweating all over the keyboard, pulled up the camera feed without asking too many questions. I told him the time. October 14th, 6:42 p.m. Level C, row 5. He scrubbed through like he was fast-forwarding through a boring scene in a movie he'd already seen, and then he paused. There, I said, pointing at the screen before I could stop myself. That's her. Riley's car. Same plates. Same scratch on the back bumper from when she said she scraped a parking lot pole. Though now, I was beginning to wonder if even that was a lie. The timestamp matched. She pulled into the spot, reversed once to straighten out, then turned off the engine. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the passenger door opened. It was him. Derek Folsom. Same smug haircut, same leather satchel, same expensive arrogance. He stepped out like he owned the garage, adjusting his jacket while Riley climbed out and brushed down her skirt like a teenager trying to look innocent after sneaking out. They didn't speak. They just looked at each other for a second, like they'd done this before. And then it happened. She reached up, pulled his face to hers, and kissed him. Not like someone caught in a moment of passion. Not like someone lost in guilt or confusion or heat. No, it was methodical. Familiar. Like a handshake between criminals. A ritual. Then they both walked off, side by side, toward the elevator, not even looking back. Joel let out a low whistle. Damn, I didn't answer. I couldn't. My hands were numb. My mouth felt like it had been stuffed with cotton. He had no idea that was my wife on that screen. And I didn't correct him. I thanked him, lied about feeling better, and walked out of that building like a ghost. But here's where it got worse. That timestamp. October 14th. That was the night Riley had come home late, crying. She said they let someone go at work. That it was a hard day. She looked me dead in the face and told me she needed to be held. I remember her shaking. I remember making tea. I remember thinking, God, how strong she must be to carry all that corporate pressure. Now I know the truth. She wasn't mourning someone's firing. She was rehearsing her guilt. She was crying because the lie had finally become too big to hold. Or maybe it wasn't guilt at all. Maybe it was just strategy. That night, I sat in my car until almost 3 a.m. And I thought about how many times she had probably kissed him in that exact spot. How many elevator rides. How many lies. How many people knew. And then I realized something worse, the camera angle. It wasn't a standard feed. It was positioned weirdly from a diagonal angle, like it had been moved or upgraded. And suddenly, I remembered the envelope. The one that said, "You don't deserve this." Someone had wanted me to see this. And not just me. Someone wanted her to be exposed. This wasn't just an affair anymore. It was a power play, which meant I wasn't the only one Riley was lying to. There were others. Possibly people above Derek. Possibly someone with a score to settle. And now, I had footage. I had timestamps. I had enough to detonate a career, maybe two. But I still wasn't ready. Because I hadn't told her I knew. And the moment she realized what I'd uncovered, everything would change. I waited exactly 48 hours before I made my first move. Not because I was unsure. Not because I was scared. I waited because I wanted the air between us to grow just tense enough for her to notice it, but not so tense she'd suspect I was onto her. There's a difference. It's the space between suspicion and certainty. I wanted her to feel it without being able to name it. On Thursday morning, I asked if she wanted to go out to dinner that weekend. Somewhere nice. Somewhere we hadn't been in a while. Her eyes blinked with surprise, and I watched her mind scramble for answers. Was I trying to reconnect? Did I know? Was I pulling her into a trap? She smiled, said yes, kissed my cheek. Said we needed this. And that was the first honest thing she'd said to me in weeks. That afternoon, while she was still at work, I took a flash drive to a small print and copy place 2 towns over. The kind of dusty shop that still advertises fax services and stocks those sad birthday cards with faded cartoon animals. I asked the guy behind the counter to print 1 image in color on matte paper. Just 1. He didn't ask questions, just glanced at it briefly on the screen, then said, "Oof, someone's in trouble." He had no idea. I took the print home, sealed it in a plain envelope, and left it under the driver's seat of her car. No note, no name, just the image. The still frame. Her and Derek in the parking garage. Mouths locked, hands low, timestamp clear in the bottom right corner. I waited by the kitchen window when she got home, pretending to be on the phone with my brother. She walked in smiling, then paused. Something in her face shifted. Subtle, almost imperceptible, but I saw it. She touched her purse like she was checking for something, nodded politely, and headed straight for the bathroom. The door locked, and she stayed in there for 32 minutes. She didn't come out angry, didn't explode. That would have been too obvious. No, she came out quiet, measured, her voice overly sweet. She asked if I wanted her to pick up anything for dinner the next night. Asked if I'd seen her blue sweater. Asked if I needed anything washed. She was terrified and trying to rebuild the illusion. I let her. I played along. Because now, she was the one on the edge. And I wanted her to dance on it. I didn't stop there. The next day, I mailed a copy of the same photo to her work address. Attention to Human Resources Department. No return address. No explanation. Just the image and the timestamp. You see, I wasn't interested in a confrontation. Not anymore. I was interested in watching her implode in real time. Piece by piece. And it was already starting. By Saturday morning, I noticed her packing a small overnight bag. She said she was going to her sister's place, that they were doing a girls' night and some self-care spa thing. She even showed me fake text messages from her sister. Messages she clearly sent to herself from her work phone. I nodded and kissed her goodbye, acting like I believed every word. But after she left, I logged into the tracker I'd installed in her car's GPS system. She didn't go to her sister's. She drove to a hotel 2 miles from Derek's gated community. I waited a full hour, then checked the security cam I'd installed in her home office. Not for her, but for his. I'd forwarded Derek an anonymous email from a burner account with a screenshot of the same photo. The subject line was simple: "You're getting sloppy." He'd replied in under 5 minutes. Who is this? That told me everything I needed. He wasn't just afraid. He had no idea who had the evidence. That meant he hadn't told her about the photo. He was protecting himself, throwing her to the wolves. Perfect. And that night, while they were tangled up together in whatever excuse of a hotel room they thought was safe, I did something she never expected. I cleaned the house. I vacuumed, dusted, folded her laundry, rearranged the spice cabinet. I watered the plants, polished the kitchen sink. I scrubbed her wine glass until it looked brand new. Because nothing unsettles a guilty person more than finding everything exactly as they left it. Perfectly in place, pristine, quiet. Like the calm before a storm. And when she walked through that door the next day, holding her overnight bag like a child returning from a sleepover, she looked around and blinked. "Did you clean?" she asked. I smiled. "Of course," I said. I wanted everything to be perfect. And I meant it. Because the next morning, everything was going to burn. She never saw it coming. That Monday morning, I woke up before her. Made coffee. Set out her favorite granola bar beside a folded napkin like I always used to. Not as a kindness, but as a goodbye. She came down the stairs in that oversized hoodie she stole from me in college, yawning, rubbing her eyes like she hadn't just spent the weekend in another man's hotel bed. She smiled when she saw me. That fake wife smile. Warm enough to fool a stranger, not sharp enough to cut me anymore. "Morning," she said, like she hadn't burned our life to the ground with lipstick and whispering lies. I smiled back. "I have a surprise for you," I said calmly. Figured it was time we both got a little clarity. She looked at me, eyebrows raised, maybe a little excited. Curious. She thought I was about to suggest a second honeymoon. Maybe a spa getaway. A desperate peace offering from the doormat. She thought I still was. I handed her an envelope. Same type I used before. She hesitated, but opened it. Inside, 3 things. A printed copy of the photo from the parking garage, this one circled in red. A summary transcript of her office recordings, edited, clean, direct. A short letter, written in my handwriting, with only 2 sentences. This is everything I know, and everything I've decided not to use against you. She didn't speak. Her face drained. Not just pale, empty, like a screen going black. Before she could say anything, I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a small folder. I handed it to her, firm and final. Inside were signed divorce papers. Every line filled out. Every signature notarized. Everything ready. She was trembling now. "You don't want to talk about this?" she asked, her voice tiny, cracking. "Don't you at least want to yell? Fight? Ask me why?" I shook my head. "No," I said quietly. "I already listened. And you already answered." Tears welled in her eyes. The kind of tears meant to make someone feel guilty. But guilt can't grow where love has been drained. I didn't threaten her. I didn't expose her to the company. I didn't contact her family. I gave her a clean exit, something she never gave me. "You can tell them whatever story you want," I said, grabbing my jacket. "Tell them we drifted. Tell them I changed. Tell them it just didn't work out." And before she could ask why I wasn't destroying her like she feared, I turned and said, "Because I'm not like you, Riley. That's the only win I need." I walked out the door that morning and never looked back. I moved into a small 1-bedroom loft across town. Nothing fancy, but peaceful. Mine. I bought new plates, different bed sheets, even a plant I haven't managed to kill yet. I sleep with the window open now. I take walks without texting someone where I'm going. I started painting again, badly, but it helps. I started cooking for myself, not someone else's expectations. And slowly, my chest stopped hurting when I woke up. One night, a few weeks later, I got an email from an unknown address. Subject: "I'm sorry." No body text. No attachments. Just that. I deleted it without opening it. Because I don't need apologies from people who only send them when they have nothing left to lose. This wasn't a tragedy. This was a release. She broke me, yes. But I rebuilt. Stronger. Quieter. Clearer. And most importantly, free.